And is it a myth? Is it a fact? Is it a reality? Is it something that that actually exists? Is it something that's made man or man-made? Is it something that we've made up? And so I'm really fired up about this particular topic, simply because we're seeing it sort of splattered all around right now. This specific topic of white privilege. This word is sort of loosely used. I was watching an interview between Chelsea Handler and who was it? Ellen DeGeneres. And Chelsea Handler, a white woman, she said some of the most outlandish things about how she felt sort of disgusted about herself because of the issue of white privilege. And I was really taken back with some of the things that she was saying, and I really didn't understand it fully. In some ways, I did. Now, let me say this about white privilege. First of all, I understand the concept. I understand the concept of where it can come from and the ideology behind it. However, I believe that it creates a mindset of entitlement, inferiority, and victimhood. And I think it is about time that we begin to demystify this word of white privilege. Not only demystify it, I believe we need to completely start to actually remove it from our vocabulary altogether. Because the issue of white privilege, what it does is it creates, as I said, a mindset of entitlement. It creates a mindset of inferiority. It creates a mindset of victimhood. And, I've been thinking a lot about what is Minority Report about? I've been, trying to build my channel, and I got some new things on the horizon. And the thing that began to come to mind to me, Minority Report is about empowering people. At the end of the day, the basis of why I'm doing this is because I desire to empower African Americans. I desire to empower Hispanics and minorities at large. I believe with a term like white privilege, it actually does the exact opposite. It doesn't empower anybody. It simply blames other people for where you are. Now, I'm not saying that I don't understand. And I'm not saying that there aren't disadvantages to people that live in different environments. And I'm not saying that there aren't disadvantages to people that live in inner cities. And I'm not saying that there aren't disadvantages to people that go to school in inner cities. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But what we've done is we've created man-made vocabulary around a specific ideal that there is a superior counterpart to those that are of color. There's a superior counterpart to those that have black and brown skin. And I simply don't believe that. I believe we're better than that. As a people, I believe that African Americans are better than the need of this sort of disenfranchised title that we're going with. And I believe that African Americans are better than inferiority. They're better than the need of government, the need of welfare, the need of systems. I believe that African Americans are better than this. And I believe that there are voices that are beginning to rise up, that are going to begin to confront this and talk about this. And I believe that Minority Report is about speaking life into the lives of African Americans and the lives of Hispanics. Because at the end of the day, it is not about the color of our skin. Our identity cannot be in our blackness, but our identity is an identity of our God-given inherent ability and creation on the inside of us. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is this. Who we are is not our blackness. Who we are is who God created us to be. I believe that we're so much greater than what we're selling ourselves for. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. actually talked about this concept. And he talked about it in 1967 at Stanford University in a speech that he gave entitled The Other America. And what he was talking about in this particular speech that he was doing at Stanford is the inferior myth, the myth of an inferior and superior race. And at the end of the day, it is just as he said, it's a myth that there's an inferior race and there's so-called some superior race, which we typically look at whites as being a superior race. That simply isn't true. I simply do not believe that. I believe that we're better than our need to blame other people for where we are. I believe that we're better than victimhood. And these are the things that we've got to begin to speak to. We are better than victimhood. And we're selling ourselves cheap. We're selling ourselves right now as political pawns. And I don't care if you're left, you're right, you're Democrat, you're Republican, or in between, because at the end of the day, this is not about that. I even think that people on our southern border, I believe they're greater than the need for America. I believe they should go back and take back their countries. Mexico has been drug-ridden, has been run over by cartels. I believe that what America should begin to do is actually empower Mexicans to say no. I believe we're doing the right thing at our border. I believe that we need to begin to empower people to be better, to overrun their governments that are corrupt, to overrun their governments that are not for the people. We've got to begin to speak life into these people, empower them, and letting them know that they're greater than this. I'm really passionate about this subject because, I'm going to calm down here because I'm super excited. But there's a story. I want to share this story with you. When I was a youth pastor, I was a youth pastor in a predominantly white church at the time. It's fairly mixed now. But when I was a youth pastor, I had this story where I went to this kid's house, a white kid that grew up in a fairly affluent family, did not want for anything, had a lot, had plenty. And we were talking about this issue of white privilege one day. And I'm there with his mother, and it's myself. And I said, well, what do you think about it? I asked the student, I said, well, what do you think about white privilege? Or what do you think about, because right now it was actually going on when everything was kind of happening with a lot of Black Lives Matter movements and things. And there was a lot of things happening within our country, a lot of things that were going on. We had a lot of rioting going on. We had a lot of protesting going on. And I asked him, and his mother asked him, actually, what do you think? And he said, well, as a white boy, I'm just tired, of being blamed. I'm tired that, it's seemingly my fault. Everybody's, in the media pointing the finger just because I'm white. I mean, this is I think he was a 16-year-old kid at the time. And I had a lot of compassion in that moment as a youth pastor for this kid. Now, this kid was not a super passionate kid. He was not a kid that was always, ready to talk about different things. He was kind of to himself. And so this is the most passionate I've ever seen this kid. When we begin talking about the issue of race and racism in our nation. And this kid got furious. Now, he was going to a predominantly white school, and his mom was asking him, well, what are they saying? What are you guys talking about? How are you talking about this? And he said, I think that people should they should do better for themselves. Nobody's making them stay in situations that they're in, no matter what the color of their skin is. And I'm saying this fairly nicely. It says, but essentially he was saying, it doesn't matter that you're black. You have a choice. We live in a nation right now today that you have a choice and you do have an option. And this kid was furious. Now, I understood his furiosity. I understood in that moment where he was coming from, because he was born into the family that he was born in, which he didn't have a choice. He didn't choose that. He was born that way. And this is the thing, and this is the issue right here. This kid is automatically being labeled an oppressor. Automatically, because he's white. Automatically. That's not okay. Now, you got an African American kid in another neighborhood that is being told, well, you're owed something by the white man because of what they've done to you or what they've done to us. And not only are you owed something by them, but you're actually less than them because this is what's happening. If you're born African American, a lot of the times you're automatically labeled inferior. Now, nobody is outright saying black people are less than. Nobody is outright saying, oh, you're inferior. No one is outright saying that. But because of this subject of, or this existence of phrases like white privilege, just take the phrase itself. What does that imply? Excuse me. It implies that white people are privileged and that I'm not. It implies that I'm less than. It implies that because I need to look at them as privileged, that I need to look at myself as less than. It implies that I need to look at myself as inferior. Instead of looking on the inside of the greatness that God has put on the inside of me and going, you know what? I'm better than this. I believe in myself. I can do greater things. I will do greater things. But what we've done in our culture is that we've pointed the finger and we've gone, well, that's white privilege and that's white privilege and that's white privilege. And we've pointed the finger and we've created this mindset where all we're doing is reproducing racism in our culture. That's it. We're simply reproducing racism because you have black kids who are looking at white kids and they're thinking, I'm telling you, this happened to me. I grew up and I had my certain perception about white people. White people were rich. White people had more. White people were crazy and they did crazy stuff like ski down mountains. Now, that's a whole nother subject, but I had these ideals about white people. You know, white people were rich. You know, there used to be this phrase that I would say, you know, well, we went over to this rich white kid's house. Rich white people this, rich white people that. And that is not okay. Well, what did that mindset create in me? It created a mindset of racism. Not only did it create that, it created a mindset that I'm inferior and I'm less than. And I'm a victim of their suppression. Though I was not living in slavery times, but yet I'm a victim. Though I was not living in the times of civil rights, but yet I'm a victim. You know, I actually had these moments where I started to hate the color of my own skin because what I thought it represented. I thought it represented that I was less than. I thought it represented that I was inferior. And I'm getting passionate about this because when we take this word white privilege and we plaster it all over the media, there's some little black kid somewhere that is saying, well, if they're white and they're privileged, how do I become the privilege? It creates this mindset that I must be less than. That because I'm black, there's something wrong with me. And that I become a victim. I become a victim of a cultural reality that society has created. That is a myth. It's fake. And it doesn't exist. You know, Paul said in scripture that there is neither Jew nor Gentile. There is neither slave nor free. Raynard, I see you, buddy. Raynard, my friend here. I hear you, man. There's a lot of African Americans out there who have hated the color of their skin. A lot of African Americans, because this myth that we've created in our culture of a so-called white privilege and the so-called superiorness of white. Well, I love white people. And I'm here to tell you, whether you're white, whether you're black, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your ethnic background, no matter what creed you are, that there's greatness on the inside of you because you're created by a great creator. And that is the message that we need to begin to proclaim today. You know, we think about this particular topic and subject, and I look at what's going on right now in our nation with the upcoming election. You know, I believe that we need reform in the African American community. We need welfare reform. Why do we need welfare reform? We need housing reform. Why do we need housing reform? The reason why I believe we need these reforms is because for too long we have leaned on the crutch of the government. Now, I'm not against assistance. I believe that there are hardworking people that simply need assistance and need a little help. And I believe that these individuals should be given a time limit so that they can begin to better themselves and the lives of their family. But they should not be put on the crutch and told to depend on government, depend on systems and welfare, and depend on government assistance and government cheese. That's not the answer. The answer is to tell them there's greatness in you and we believe in you. And I believe that's what conservatism is about. If you're a conservative, you simply are telling people that we are people that believe in ourselves and believe in others. We believe the best about people. We don't think that people are less than and they have to be dependent on a system or a government the rest of their lives. But I believe this is what has happened in the African American community. This is what's happening on our southern borders. People are coming and pouring into America on our southern borders because we've presented this sense of superiority, and we've presented this sense that, well, they need us and we should accept them in. It's not even about accepting them or rejecting them. It's simply about saying to them that, no, you're greater. You're greater. There's something great in you. And I guarantee that if we begin to empower nations and empower people groups and tell them, I mean, take it, the situation with Libya. The Libyans overturned the Gaddafi regime. I can go on and on about situations, Kosovo. I can go on and on about situations where corrupt governments have been toppled and people have been put out of office. Why? That's because of the greatness of the people. The people saw that they had greatness in them. And that's what we've got to begin to do. And I believe the right thing to do is to empower African Americans. I don't believe that white privilege exists. Excuse me. I believe that only greatness amongst all people groups, every creed, every color, every race, I believe that's what exists. I believe we're all great and we're all created in the image of a great creator, God, Yahweh. And I believe that that's the image that we're all called to bear. And so we've got to put aside this nonsense of white privilege. We've got to do that. And Uriel, Reuben, I don't know, I don't know if that's true. It says we didn't create it, they did. I don't know that I agree with that they, and then if you're saying they, who's the they that you're referring to? Because this is the thing that's killing our nation right now, is this us versus them mentality, the haves and the have-nots kind of mentality, this mindset. Instead of going, you know what, I'm looking at somebody else and I'm celebrating their greatness, knowing that I can too and am also great. I think that's the perspective that we need to begin to have. Now, I'm very sympathetic and compassionate towards this issue because I do believe that there are people that really do think that this ideal of white privilege exists. And they really do actually believe that they're less than and they're inferior. And so they spend time blaming other people of an opposite race, typically. And I believe that if somebody would look them square in the face and sit with them and have time and talks with them and say, I don't believe that about you. I'm telling you, it is a psychological thing that has defeated the mindset of African Americans. Yeah, we were enslaved. Yeah, we were brought to these shores outside of our will. Yes, we were. But if we keep living from our past bondage, we will only stay in chains and shackles. We will never break free. We will never become the greatness that we are and lead this nation into forgiveness, into reconciling, and holding hand in hand as brothers and sisters in harmony, in unity. You know, what kills me is that those that have a leftist democratic ideology, they preach this all the time. Oneness and acceptance and unity. But yet, they use terms and things like white privilege. White privilege, that doesn't promote love and harmony and unity. White privilege, it creates division. White privilege, when leftists and Democrats use this word, they are only bringing that much more division in our nation. They're only saying to black people that you're inferior. And see, when you add this equation to the mix, when you have racism and then you add this equation of white privilege, it only infuriates people of a particular race that much more. And it's not okay. And it's got to stop. We've got to begin to believe in our greatness as a community, as African Americans. There are a lot of African Americans that are making it and that are doing well. I guarantee they're not walking around looking at themselves all the time, constantly, as a victim of white privilege. I'm talking about your individuals that are heads of businesses, even in government. I guarantee Maxine Waters is not walking around saying that I'm a victim of white privilege, seeing how far she has made it into the political spectrum. I guarantee Barack Obama is not walking around saying I'm a victim of white privilege, but yet he is preaching white privilege. Or he's siding with the party that has preached this existence, this myth of white privilege. But I guarantee he's not walking around and saying, well, I'm a victim of white privilege. How so? When you were the 44th president of the United States of America. And I've actually heard Barack Obama actually make statements that are contradicting each other, because I believe that he actually believes in the greatness of people. I do believe he believes that. But because of the issue of politics, he's stood up in this stance that has only made people powerless and not empowered them. Anyways, I can go on and on. This video is much longer than what I expected it to be. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm greatly appreciative. I want to put my link for my YouTube channel in the box there. I'm going to start doing some Facebook Live videos like this, just to kind of get things ramped up. But I just want you to know, I don't care what color you are. If you're white, you're black, you're brown, yellow, red, whatever, there's greatness in you. You're great. You're amazing. And you're not inferior. And you're not less than. And I know that there's a lot of whites that do not like this word white privilege. Very rightly so. Because it puts you in this sense that, oh, as if you didn't work hard. As if you didn't earn what you have. As if only because you're white, that's the only reason that you're ahead. As a black man, I'm sorry. Yep, I said it. I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry that we've praised this label, that we've celebrated this label. It's quite disgusting. But we should be a merit-based type country. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said it. Even Barack Obama himself said it. If you work hard, you should get what you deserve. If you work hard and you do the things necessary. Yeah. So anyways, I can go on, but I'm probably going to talk about this subject more because this is something that's really on my heart, because my hope is to empower African Americans, is to empower Hispanics, is to empower people at our southern border and to tell them that there's greatness in them. And there's let's debunk this myth of there's this superior race. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about it. I want you to go take a look at it. He talked about it in his speech at Stanford University in 1967 called The Other America. It's an incredible speech where he talked about this. We're going to debunk it. All right, thanks.